All right, so today we are going to look at building a recipe manager inside of the PLCNext. So we're going to look at a couple different things. We're going to look at how to make custom data types. We're going to look at some of the HMIs and how we build that. And then we're also going to look at the code and how we make that work. All right, so let's look at what we have so far. So far I just have 3 recipes. I have the ability to select the recipes. I have load and save buttons, as well as the ability to call a recipe number that may not be on this sheet. Um, so if we take a look, we can enter values in here. We can change this to like green, and we could change the water and put in, 36.5 liters of water. And what we do is we come down here, we select a recipe, we hit load. Now we've loaded our recipe into the selected recipe. Now if we were making some changes because we were adjusting the recipe while we were doing it, we could change this to put in 1.5 ounces of yeast. And then if we hit save, you'll notice that now the green has been saved here up there. If we change to something like the red, we can hit load, and then it will bring in all of those various ingredients for us to use. It also changes the recipe number. We could call a different recipe, say 5, which isn't on the list, and then hit load. And then, of course, because it's empty and we haven't given it anything, we could say this is the blue, and then we could go back to a green. Actually, what we want to do is we want to still keep this at 5. We want to save this recipe, which we'll put it in recipe slot number 5. And if we go back to green and hit load, we'll see that it's green. And if we go back to recipe number 5 and hit load, you'll see that it came in as blue. So even though it's not on this list, we do have the ability to interact with it with this custom recipe number over here. And then as you notice, if I change these things around to be recipe number 1, we're now showing green, and then we can load the green recipe. So we're going to look at the custom data types first. If you notice on the right hand side, we have our local programming window open, and then we've created a data type worksheet called recipe. Now inside recipe, we have an array of a structure, and the structure is here. So what I've done is I've created a structure of these variables. So the name, how much flour, how much water, how much yeast, how much sugar, and how much egg goes into each recipe. And then we put them into an array of basically 11 recipe structures. There could be 5, there could be 50, there could be 500. It's all about how you declare the array and how big. Now, if you don't know how to do these, there is the ability to insert a template, and you could put in either just an array, just a structure, or you could actually do the whole array of structures as one input. So if you see, what it did was it created my array of structures of my structure 2, and then here's the data that's inside my structure 2. The reason I like to use structures is because when we're in things like structured text, we can say that this structure equals this one, or vice versa, and it also cuts down on the number of variables that we have to have declared in our variables worksheet. All right, so now that we've done the custom data types, we're going to look at the code a little bit. Now I have written this in structured text, so it's pretty easy to read and it's fairly straightforward. So we're basically saying that if we use this HMI button, we're going to put the recipe that I have selected here or here into position 0. Now I'm using position 0 as the current selected recipe. So if you were writing this in your code and you needed to know how many quantities, you would then use this 0 position in the array as the current selected recipe. And then we can go ahead and interact with that. If we go AST recipe data position 0 dot flour. Now we're pulling up the actual real data type of what you've put in for the flour. And then all we do is make sure that the load button is false. And then we have another button here for save, which then does the opposite, where we put the selected recipe number into, or sorry, we put the 0 position array into the selected. So if we made any modifications, because this was on a different page, we could go ahead and save these modifications and it would adjust them here in kind of the master list. So again, very basic code. Because we've used an array and a structure, we're able to do some very basic movements to move data around. All right, now that we've gone over some of the basics, we can start looking at the HMI, which does get a little bit more complicated, but not too bad. What I've done is actually create symbols. So if you notice on the right-hand side here, under HMI, under local, under symbols, we have current recipe and we have recipe. So this is the recipe um, uh, symbol, and what I do is all I have to do is attach the row number, which is basically what array, where in the array we're going to put it, and then I just have to attach that one very large array of structure for recipe data. Now, if we go into this up here and we look at how it's built, we have some parameters where we have the row number where it's an any number, so someone could put in any number, and then we call the custom data type so that the HMI symbol knows what to use when we're attaching tag values to it. So if we go back to the HMI symbol, you can see that the first one is the row number, and under dynamics, we have a text entry. So we have I row number, which was one of the variables I created over here, and a 0 digits after the decimal because it's an integer, so we're not going to have anything after the decimal point. And if we just start going through this symbol, we'll see that we're just simply attaching variables. So we're saying array of structure, the row number that we've selected, dot sname, which is the string for the name. If we go down here, we have the same structure, the same row number. Now we're just calling the flour. And then in this one, we're calling the water, and then so on and so forth until we've completed all of the values that are in that array that we want to use. Now, what's nice about creating a symbol is if I wanted to add, say, a fourth row to this table that I have, I can come over here, grab this recipe, it's going to drop it in. We're going to be able to line it up with the current, and then we're going to go to parameters. We can say I row number. Now this could be a variable or it can be a constant. In this case, we want it to be a constant and we want it to be number 4. So now this is the 4th position in the recipe manager. The other thing that we have to attach to it is the variable for the structure, which there's really only one option because it's looking for a very, very specific data type. And then once we've attached that, now we've added a 4th row to this page. If we want to add a 5th one, a 6th one, a 7th one, it's the same process, and it makes it very easy to go through and adjust these. The other nice thing is when you're in these symbols, if I was to adjust the text or anything in here, like I didn't want it to be bold anymore, what's nice is it automatically updates on this page. So you don't have to go through and change every single one of these to be bold. You can simply go back in here, click on this, go to the text, which is going to change the way it looks, make it bold. And now again, we go back to the home page and now we have bolded recipe numbers. So that's one of the symbols. And then all I did was take the same thing, but remove the recipe number from the left-hand side. And it gets the same parameters. What row number? Again, we're going to use 0 because what we've done is we've used the 0 position in the structure as our current selected recipe, and then we just attach that large array of structures to that. So now that we have the symbols done, there are just some regular old things that we need to do. So if we go here to select recipe, this is where you can simply see what the recipe that you've selected. You could click on it and select that recipe by name. So what that is that's under dynamics, and there are a couple in here because we're kind of making them as we go. We have fill. So we're saying the variable is an integer, and if it's selected, which is value 1, which is what the first recipe is, we're going to say if the value is less than 0, be gray. If it's in between 1 and 2, be this teal color, and if it's above 2, be gray. So we actually know which recipe is selected based on the color. The text is also dynamic. So what we've done is we've taken the recipe data, and then we've basically taken just the S name of position 1. So now as I modify the names here, the names will then be updated here. So you could have this on its own page, kind of, as a recipe manager, and then on the page where all of your, all the weights and all the fills and all the things that you're trying to do with the machine, this could just be off in the corner, and you're just selecting a recipe based on what you're doing that day. So again, these are, we have our fill, we have our text, and last we have action on click. And what we want to do is we want to write a very specific value to the H recipe select. So when I push the button on the screen, we're going to write a 1 into the variable for the recipe. And same thing if we look at the number 2, we're going to write a number 2 and then a number 3 and so on as we go down the list. So that's how we build a text box that has multiple options and the ability to be clicked. If we look at the load button, what I've done is I've said action on click, action, write value. We're going to write a constant value and it's true, and we're going to put it in H recipe load. Now the reason that this works is because over here in our code, we're saying that if you hit H recipe load, as soon as it does what it needs to do, it's going to make it false again. So we don't have to worry about making this a button or anything very special. We can just say, all right, this is text. When I click it, write this value. It is possible to use just the regular button. So if we drag a regular button out here, it is possible to look at the behavior. We could say H recipe load. We don't want it latching. So when we push it, it doesn't stay down, which is what we'd want because we don't want it to be constantly loading. We basically want to load it one time. The reason I don't like that is because you could click the button so fast that it doesn't do over here, and then you wouldn't know that it loaded. Whereas if we use something like this, where we're actually writing the value true and then not making it false until we use the code over here to say false, then we know that all this data actually got loaded into that array and then the button went false. I feel like it's just a much more secure way to know that you've actually, put the data that you want into it. Now you are going to see this data down here change, so you would kind of know if the load button didn't work. But if you do it this way, you're pretty much guaranteed that it is going to write that data into that value. So again, there's a couple ways to do it. I prefer to basically make my own button out of a text, but there is more than one way to do it. The last thing we're going to look at is the recipe number. So again, this is just a regular old text with just regular text in it. If we're looking at the text input box, so again, there's a text input box down here. We go to dynamics, and then we just go and we add a new dynamic called text. We'll see that we have the variable as the recipe select, and then 0 digits after the decimal, because again, it's an integer and not a float. So now when we click on this and adjust the number, it will change the recipe, or vice versa. If we select another recipe, it will automatically update the number. Again, I was using that to find recipes that may not have existed in this chart, but maybe they're, hidden, or they're extra, recipes that you may not need all the time. It is possible to make them here.